Hey, everybody. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal. I'm Kristi Brower. This is my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Pretty good. We're recording on Mother's Day. So happy Mother's
Yes.
Day.
Thank you so much. Happy Mother's Day to all of you and to you,
Yes.
Kristi.
Thank you. Yeah, we did have a fun day today.
Yeah.
We had a little barbecue, and it turned out that we as usual, great minds think alike because I brought wine glasses as a present, and Kara also brought wine glasses as a present. Our younger sister. That happens to us all the time. That
Mhm.
we and
Oh,
Katie.
one time a few years ago, you and Kara both got me the exact same birthday card.
Yes, we did. I think that's actually happened a couple of times, which
Mm-hmm.
is so funny. You, although very smartly, brought some fun games for presents, so that
I
was really
did.
great. We had a good time.
I always buy
But
you guys hanging baskets,
yeah,
but it's been cold,
yeah,
and I went to the store and I looked at hanging baskets and they looked like garbage.
yeah. It's a little cold.
Yeah, so I decided, nah, I'm not gonna buy them if they're gonna not last. So games it was. Yep.
There you go. We love games. We play a lot of games together, so that's really
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. Well, this is, I don't know, what are we going to call this? This is our group case for the week, but it is also our MMIW case for the week because it's kind of a
Yeah.
combo.
Double duty.
Yeah, you're going to know this case because you have heard it before, I am sure, but we haven't shared it before. So this is the case of Canadian serial killer Robert Pickton, who liked to be called Willy.
Hmm.
Or you might know him as the pig farmer killer
Or the butcher.
or the butcher. Yes. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about Willie for a minute. He preferred Willie, so I'm going to call him Willie because I don't know, I just think it's sort of interesting to get into the mind of someone a
Yeah.
little bit more by calling them the name they want to be called. So, as we know, he was a serial killer that was active in Canada in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Now,
Yeah.
it's really unfortunate, and we're going to talk about this more, but something to know about Willie is that there were a bunch of opportunities for the Canadian police to stop Willie.
Oh yeah.
And they done didn't, my friends, they
No.
didn't. He
No,
was
no.
arrested in 2002, but he had been killing since we think maybe 1983.
Yeah.
So there were several opportunities in which people either reported him and said, "Hey, he's really creepy. Something's going on over there. We don't think things are right. You need to check this place out." Or in 1997, he was actually charged with attempted murder
Yeah.
after he stabbed this woman, Wendy Lynn Eistetter. He
Yeah.
stabbed her several times during an altercation at the farm. She was a sex worker who had come back to his pig farm with him.
Hmm.
And while they were having sex, he handcuffed her and stabbed her.
Yeah.
She managed to get the knife from him and stabbed him back. Good for you,
Yeah.
girl. And ran away. And she managed to
Hmm.
get a car who stopped and got her to the Eagle Ridge Hospital.
Yeah.
Okay, so this part, I mean, come on, police, give me a friggin' break here, okay?
Right.
So Willie calls the paramedics, whatever number you call, 122 or something like that, 112 in Canada. Anyway, can't remember. Anyway, he calls them and says he's been stabbed, so they come and get him, and guess where they take him? Eagle
Yeah.
Ridge freaking Hospital.
Yeah.
So they're both being treated in the same ER. They get the key for the handcuff that's on Wendy out of his pocket so they can
Yeah.
take it off from her. And so they decide that Wendy, this is where this comes in as an MMIW case, because they decide that Wendy is an unreliable witness
Yep.
because she is addicted to drugs and she is a sex worker.
Yep.
And so they freaking drop the case.
Yeah.
I mean, literally,
Yep.
how many people died? We don't even know for sure
No.
how many people died after that. Had they arrested him and put him,
Yeah.
away for what he'd done.
Right. I mean, all in all, he's claiming responsibility for 49 murders.
Yeah.
But they really don't know. But yes. And unfortunately, his victims were they were all prostitutes or some sort of sex worker. They were addicts. And as women were coming up missing, people who worked, in that area that were trying to help women in that area of Vancouver were constantly reporting women missing.
Yeah.
And the police were doing nothing. Many First Nations women, as well as other nationalities as well. And, he didn't discriminate. He just, as long as they were sex workers or addicts, then that's who he wanted. But over and over and over again, women that were working at the shelters there, that were helping these women in some capacity were reporting them missing and came continually getting the same sob stories back from, or the, BS stories back from the police. Well, maybe she just got on a bus and left. Maybe she's just not coming around here anymore. We don't know.
Some 70 women just got on buses and disappeared, right?
Yeah.
So I'm posting a picture. This is a poster from the Missing Women's Task Force that was going on during part of Willy Pickton's killing spree. Yeah. And these are many of his victims on this poster.
Yeah.
They did think that they had some kind of a serial killer.
Well, finally they did. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did, this was going on around about the same time as John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy in the US. And so they were thinking that maybe they had something like this going on. But you know that the very first time that Willy became, someone that the police were aware of was in 1971.
Yeah.
And he was arrested in 2002.
Yeah.
So let's tell you.
They just just looked at him as like the neighborhood weirdo that was harmless rather than
that's kind of
the potential of him committing crimes like this, because he was low IQ and, they didn't really look at him as somebody who could be some kind of criminal mastermind pulling off some kind of, serial killing thing. It never crossed their minds.
Right. Well, and there are still questions about if he actually had accomplices.
Sure.
Yeah. There were some people who lived on the farm at the time that all of this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
They were addicts that worked for him and he paid them, and that's how they continued their, that's how they got the drugs. And so they were very dependent on him. But there were various people that worked for him over time that did report things to the police, most of which was just completely freaking ignored.
Yeah.
But they did, say, hey, I witnessed this, or he said this to me, or he showed me a woman hanging in the slaughterhouse that he had gutted. And none of it, they just didn't take any of it seriously. And they're like, well, we don't actually have any bodies. So as far as we're concerned, we're not sure we even have a crime here.
Yeah.
And this went on and it went on and it went on. And
it reminds me a little of fried green tomatoes,
Yeah, it does. So here's the thing that just pisses me off, okay? So one of the people working for him said, hey, he's got some illegal guns over there. So you know what? They came looking right away for those damn guns. They didn't care about all of these women that were missing. But when it came to illegal guns, boy, they came right over there with a warrant.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, guess what they found?
Yeah.
Clothes, ID, personal belongings of
Mhm.
tons of missing women.
Of missing women. Yep.
And then they got the warrants and they brought in the anthropologists and the forensic people.
Mhm.
They spent $70 million searching
Yep.
this pig farm because they were just finding, like, sometimes they'd find a skull or a half a skull or a skull with hands and feet in it.
Yeah. Or just a
Or,
mandible or
yeah,
teeth
just some
or
teeth or a
yeah.
piece of a bone here and there because he had been putting these bodies through meat grinders.
Yeah.
There was a real question because he slaughtered pigs and sold pork.
Mhm.
There was a real question about whether he was actually selling pork that had human remains in it.
Mhm.
And so a big alert went out to everyone like, no, don't eat this meat. Holy shit, right?
Yeah.
How long had that been going on? But the
Oh,
other
well,
thing that he.
a very long time because I believe that this all started with his mother. We know that his mother
Yes.
killed one person for certain.
Yes.
I would imagine that she killed more than that kid and that she was the first person to teach him how to dispose of bodies this way. I would
Yes.
imagine their meat had been tainted for an extremely long time.
Decades and decades. She was such a brutal person. At one
Mhm.
point, when he was a little boy, he had a calf that he raised from birth.
Yeah.
And he was told that that was his pet. And he
Mhm.
loved it. And, you know, he grew up with this little cow and he believed that to be his pet. And
Mhm.
it wasn't true. And when the cow got old enough, they slaughtered it
Mhm.
and ate it. And it just broke him
Mhm.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, he
Um,
was so picked on at school
yes, terribly.
because his parents were awful, disgusting people that
Yeah,
didn't take care of their little boys. They actually had a daughter that was being raised by someone else
yeah.
because they didn't believe a pig farm was the right place for a little girl to be raised. Well, their poor
Mhm.
little boys were
Yeah.
being raised in the epitome of filth.
Well,
And they
they
were going to
stunk.
school every day, yeah, smelling like pig shit and dirty and in
And
dirty,
dead
gross
animals.
clothes and dead animals. And of course, kids are mean and they didn't like them.
Yeah.
And they were really mean to them and they were super mistreated at school. These
Mhm.
little boys, they told stories of sneaking back home and hiding under their beds until it was time to be out of school so that they wouldn't have to go because it was
Yeah.
such a horrible, horrible experience to have to go to school. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he makes friends with this calf that's like his only friend in the world because nobody wants to be his friend.
No.
And then they slaughter it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just absolutely breaks him.
It's
Yep.
just unfreaking believable. You know, another thing is that his mother would hose him down outside with the garden hose.
Yeah.
And he developed a real aversion to water.
Hmm.
And as an adult, he did not like to shower.
Yeah.
And he was real smelly.
And gross.
People
Yeah.
were always, you know, that was one thing that people always remembered about meeting Willy was he was
Yeah.
yucky and stinky.
Hmm.
And he did not like showering. Like he had some like PTSD from his experiences with his mother.
Yeah.
She was brutal.
She was. Well, and then, of course, when he was a teenager, his brother hit a child on their road and left him for dead, scared, didn't know what to do, came back home and told mom. She told him to get the truck to the barn and take care of it, and she'd take care of the kid. And she went and found him on the road, still alive, and rolled him into a ditch and
Yeah,
let him drown. And that also, I think, made a huge mark on both of the boys.
yeah.
But and of course the police let that one go as well. But
Mm,
again, that we think we that's all they know of as far as her involvement in killing people. But I just don't believe it. I can't shake the feeling that
mm,
she had killed or had made the boys kill or they had been involved in killing other people on that farm when he was a kid. It
yeah,
just strikes me that it wasn't just the kid that got hit by a car. There was more than that going on.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it seems to me that Willie didn't really see himself as a human who mattered, and he didn't
No,
see the women that he killed as humans who mattered, you know?
no.
Not at all. And, that the grinding up of the body is if things didn't go into the meat, what they did is it went into the pig feed.
Yeah.
And so then they would find pieces of bone and jaw and teeth and hair and things in the pig pens.
Yeah.
And trying to identify, through DNA, and if they even could have enough DNA. And they did identify 27 people. Yeah. But there were way more than that there. They did try through this missing women's task force, they did try to get family members wherever they could to give their DNA so that they could start using familial matching to try to help identify some of the others, but they never have fully identified all of them.
No.
And for reasons that I don't fully understand, and so here's the thing about the Canadian legal system. Nothing is made public about trials and evidence and stuff like that until the judge says it can be made public. And then the judge can determine what is made public and what isn't. So there was a mistake made, and it was made by the judge himself during Willy's trial for the first 6 murders, in which he couldn't be tried. He couldn't actually be convicted for first-degree murder. He could only be convicted for second-degree. Now, I don't know why. I don't know what the judge did. I don't understand their system very well. But the judge screwed up. So they end up convicting him of second-degree murder, and he gives him the maximum that you can give in Canada, which is 25 years.
Yeah.
They call that a life sentence, and it's 25 years.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, guys? He is eligible to be released in 2032.
Yeah.
It's, he's an older dude, he's 71 now. And so he probably won't be around by then, but it's a little terrifying,
Yeah.
That isn't actually that far away. That's only 11 years away.
Yeah. That this person
could potentially be released.
All of these people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and and I'm not going to give their names because they're still out there in the world. And, I can't imagine being connected to this person and to this case. But these individuals that worked for him, how did they not know? How did they not know? And they did report some things. But, they all say they didn't know the extent to which this was going on, other than some people noticed that he would bring women back to the farm and then they would go missing,
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where they went, So it does seem like there was at least some willingness to stay quiet for a long time about this situation.
Well, there was a lot of drug use going on.
Yeah.
On the farm. And a lot of enabling addiction on the farm. And he had, from a portion of farm that they sold, he had a bunch of money. They sold a portion of the farm after their parents died for $2 million. So he had some money burning a hole in his pocket, and he was using that to keep people high and to keep people quiet. Yeah.
Definitely, he was very good at that, at manipulating the people working for him and around him by doing that. For sure.
Yeah.
But there's, the system. The other thing I don't understand is that so he admitted to an undercover police officer while he was in jail that he has killed 49 women. And that he's really lamenting getting arrested because he really wanted to make it an even 50. So they haven't been able to identify 49 women. They have identified 27 women. Well, I guess now it's 26 because one of the women that they had on his list actually discovered that she was on his list and called the police and said, "Hey, I'm living in the U.S. I'm fine." Thank God. So now it's
Yeah.
down to 26. But the question that I do not understand is that they have opted not to charge him with those 20 murders.
Yeah.
And they imply that they don't have enough evidence to charge him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they found the reason they know who these women are
Yeah.
is because they found their jawbones and teeth and hair and bloody clothes and ID at his house and on
Yeah.
his farm. How is that not enough evidence to charge him?
Yeah.
How can they not charge him to, at least for one, give some closure to
Yeah.
family members,
Some
but
justice. Yeah.
but also to ensure that he never sees the light of day, that he never walks out of a Canadian prison?
Yeah.
Because that is just wrong, 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 wrong.
It is astonishing to me the way this has been handled
It's
and
been
obviously mishandled.
so badly, and there's been a big investigation and a
Mm-hmm.
big report on how they screwed up and blah blah blah, and an apology issued.
And lots of finger pointing
Yeah,
between the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Vancouver Police.
yeah,
Lots of finger pointing and blaming each other, and you know, and obviously on the Vancouver Police's part, a huge lack of awareness that they had a serial killer operating in their midst,
right.
because all of these missing cases they just kept dismissing as we don't care, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
just a garbage person. We don't care.
Yep,
These are
just
all
another
from
addict, just another sex worker, just
yeah,
another First Nations woman. It
right.
just did not track.
No, these are all people from the east side of Vancouver or the red light district in Vancouver. And so, we've seen this problem in the US too,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because they struggle with addiction and because they're sex workers, that they just don't have value as human beings.
Yeah.
Look at this poster, look at these faces.
Yeah.
These people existed.
Yeah.
They had family and friends and their lives mattered.
Yeah.
And the victims' families have given the police some hell
Yes,
over
they
the
have
years
raised hell.
and
Yes.
continue to give them some hell, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is really good that there are people out there who are related to these women going,
Mm-hmm.
what in the actual hell went on there, and why still is this dude sitting in prison on 6 second-degree murder charges
Yeah.
when we have evidence that he killed 26?
Yeah.
Now, another interesting thing that's going on, and of course, I don't fully understand this again because the Canadian legal system is, I don't know. But the Royal Canadian Mounted Police want to destroy some exhibits from Willie Pickton's case.
Mm-hmm.
They say they don't need them anymore. And, um, his latest thing is that he is innocent. He wrote
Right.
a book that he managed to smuggle out of the prison, and it actually got published. It was up on Amazon for a while.
No.
And there was this huge outcry about it, like, hey, do you not know what this is?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so it got pulled down. But basically, in it, it's just a big old diatribe about how he's innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want any of the exhibits destroyed. There are between 100 and 200,000 exhibits
Yeah.
in these cases. I mean, they
Yeah.
are friggin' massive
Mm-hmm.
cases.
Well, I mean, remember, the investigation, the pathology, the forensics was millions of dollars and an
Oh yeah,
enormous amount of time. Of
70
course, they have a
million.
lot. Yeah, they have a lot of evidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So
what? Just so they could not charge him?
yeah, so they could not charge him. And they have all these exhibits. They have his admission to this
Mm-hmm.
police officer that was actually on video.
Yeah.
And yet they are still not charging this moron. It's
Yeah.
just like, come on. But that's been the latest thing. This was last year that they want to destroy some of the exhibits, and it's a specific section of them, and they're splitting them up, and they're going to ask to destroy some more of them. and his attorney quit on him. And so he spoke for himself in court, and he doesn't want them destroyed because they will need to be used when they find the true murderer of these people and the true culprit of this crime. It's just a bunch of crazy bullshit.
Yeah.
They didn't really listen to him, and they did get approval to destroy these particular exhibits. And I don't know exactly what's in the exhibits. It wasn't very clear about that. But so the families are actually suing him and his brother David for damages also.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting, because do they still have some money? I have no idea after all this. Yeah. Maybe they do. But even now, we're still seeing the Canadian justice system, it has messed this up over and over again. And we're still seeing it. Like, they're not going to charge him for these other cases that they have evidence on. They have identified those women through DNA. There are still around 22 unidentified victims. Yeah. Which is just, and they're probably on this poster that we're showing. They're probably up there somewhere.
Likely. Yeah.
But, I don't know. I guess we just wanted to discuss this case and share it with you if you weren't familiar. There's been lots of books and documentaries and things about this. The hard part about it is that there's not a lot of information about Willy personally. And there's not a lot of information about his family, a little bit. And there's not a lot of information about what kind of psychological evaluations have been done on him.
Right.
Don't know. Can't find any.
Yeah, there's not.
But
and there's some interesting things about him as a serial killer because he started out by strangling and stabbing his victims, as far as we know.
Yeah.
And strangling and stabbing, and then, of course, dismembering, butchering and slaughtering, basically, his victims as he would the pigs. He actually did a slaughterhouse internship as a teenager. Got really good at slaughtering. And this is where his, most excellent knife skills came in. Well, towards the end, close to when he was caught, he actually had started shooting his victims.
Yeah.
It was totally different. It is interesting because over the years he evolved, and kind of jumped from his typical MO to something different.
Yeah.
Which, was that the downfall of him? We don't know. The downfall of him could have happened multiple times over the years before it actually did.
Yeah.
But just a study of him is pretty interesting in the way he evolved from the way he was murdering to the way he had ended up.
Well, and there needs to be a big psychological workup of him done. One of the most important things that we can do with serial killers after they've been caught is learn to understand them.
Yeah.
And there's always that big question of why.
Yeah.
But more than why, I think understanding what built this guy, what's going on in his head that he would do this.
Yeah.
And do it in such an incredibly brutal way. And just, he's fairly smart in that he figured out how to punk the system. I mean, he was murdering people for nearly 20 years before he was caught because he figured out how to murder women that nobody gave a damn about, how to murder women that the police were never going to come looking for, and how to keep people working for him, dependent on him financially because of their drug use, in order to have help around the pig farm, but also have people that didn't tell on him. So just interesting, there needs to be a better psychological workup of him done, I think.
Yeah.
To help us understand the brutality. And I do think, the stories that we do know about his childhood certainly come into play there. But what else is going on with him? Because, he had siblings and none of them became serial killers. So why him? Why Willy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's questions definitely worth asking and answering. And, again, every one of these faces deserves to be
Oops.
identified.
They do. They do. Every single one of those women deserves to be identified and to their disappearances investigated.
Yeah.
And, this is a problem in Canada. It's a problem in the US. It's a problem everywhere. That
Yeah.
if a person has a drug problem or if they're a sex worker, then they're not really a human and they don't matter.
Yep.
And that's bullshit.
Somehow our criminal justice systems have become able to decide the worth of a person and whether it's really worth their time to look into their disappearances and deaths. We just keep seeing it. It's a
Yep.
reform that is so desperately needed.
Yeah.
It makes me sick.
It makes me sick too. And I mean, it's one thing for, the police in Canada to apologize. Too little, too late. I mean, seriously,
Oh,
that's just
yeah.
gross at this point. Do better. That's what. Do better. Go solve these cases. Go spend some more time with Willy and find out who the hell he killed and why, and
Yeah.
identify these people. Put effort in rather than, sorry, we screwed up. No, no. We have to learn to treat all humans as human
Yeah.
and valuable.
Yeah.
And this is certainly a reminder of that.
It is, Van.
Yeah.
This is a horrifying case just from every angle.
It is. It's a horrifying case. It's horrifying to think that another human being would be willing to do that to other people
Yeah.
and be that callous
Mm-hmm.
and brutal and get away with it for so long. I mean, all of those things are in fact unfathomable to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like it's incredibly unfair for the police to look at a woman like Wendy, who he nearly killed,
Mm-hmm.
and go, well, she's a drug addict and a prostitute, so she's not a reliable witness, so we're not taking her to court. We're
Yep.
not using her. Good God, they could have stopped so many murders if
Yep.
they'd just listened to her. And I mean, he was in the same hospital with the injuries she inflicted. He had the key to the handcuff on her
Yeah.
wrist. What more did they need?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
For her to not be her.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this is Robert Willy Pickton.
Yep.
He is the pig farm killer or what did you call
butcher.
him? The butcher.
The butcher.
Yeah, the butcher. Yeah. So, you can learn more about him if you want to. There are a bunch of
Oh yeah, lots of resources out there.
documentaries and Criminal Minds did a case that was very similar to this one. There's lots of stuff out there if you want to learn more about him, but it's definitely worth looking into just to better understand how the criminal justice system in Canada failed these women terribly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, guys, this is our first case of the week. So today is Monday, and we will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday with more cases. And then we'll be back Wednesday night with our live stream case update, Thursday night with our live stream psychic hour, and some pop-ups on the weekends. So we have lots of great stuff coming. We have lots of great stuff we've already put up. So if you're just finding us, don't worry. You've got a couple of 100 episodes now to peruse your way through.
That's right.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us. You can submit a case to us if you would like us to cover it. You can go to truecrimeparanormalpodcast.com. Go down to the bottom of the page. There's a little form you can fill out. We love suggestions. We do try to take as many as we can, and sometimes it takes us a little while to get to them, but we do appreciate your support. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a fan page, True Crime Paranormal, and we also have a discussion group linked to that fan page, so you're welcome to come join us there where we can talk about our cases. You can ask us questions, and, we share live streams in there and stuff like that, so you can see what we have going on.
Yep.
Yeah. So You know it. We are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Take care.